like some juice? Well, there's crackers. Yeah.
Thank you.
Might be good to get it on before you start talking.
Yeah, or I start talking and
Anyway, it's up to you.
thank you, I appreciate it.
Say thank you for coming.
Oh, thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
having us.
Yeah.
We kind of like doing this.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, but it's an exciting time doing this.
Yeah, we were just talking about all this stuff going on.
Yeah, yeah. Then our announcement today with new manure digester project within a few years could be displacing, I love it, the equivalent of 10 million gallons of gasoline annually in greenhouse gas emissions.
The analogy when Chris Hubbock did in his story was 60,000 cows are close to the size of the city of Chicago in terms of human waste, which I
Yeah,
had
when you
like,
start thinking
you know,
about that.
done
Yeah.
that like what is that compared to? But I was like, holy cow, that's
Yeah, it's a lot, and it doesn't get treated.
right. We're not processing that in the same way.
Yeah, it's amazing amounts of energy being used and wasted. You know,
Yeah.
just at least getting that methane burning is so much better than just letting it go in the atmosphere.
My wife had an interesting speaker. I saw you were on it at the UNA meeting.
Oh yeah.
This guy, his name's Ed Winters. He has a YouTube channel, but he gave a lecture on the impact of animal agriculture on the environment, and it's stunning. It's just stunning.
And even modern agriculture, just what they've been doing with the soil, and just turning it into dirt, and not allowing any of that carbon to be fixed into the soil. We can do so much with just changing our agricultural practices. That's another area that's amazing. I went on it was Bike the Barns, but we went on Bust the Barns.
I saw Bike the Barns. I wondered what that was because we were taking a walk on the Lorry-Har River Trail Bridge, and all of these bikes are going on Bike the Barns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, is it related to Terry Gracie?
Terry, who was married to Terry, who passed away.
She was married to Ron.
Ron, who passed away.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we went to her farm.
Oh, okay.
That was on the tour.
Yeah. Oh, so were you like looking at little CSA?
It's typically a CSA tour,
Yeah. And Terry was there milking goats.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. She and her sister was there. She's doing a lot of sustainable agriculture. Pasture raised beef. Yeah, so it's fun.
Well, now I know what all those bikers were doing too, because I was like, man, this trail is busy. And my parent and my wife's like, I think there's like a race or something going on.
For sure. Yeah, it was good. They had food and
So you don't need to bike too hard and have something to see the farm.
It's like usually it's like 5 of the CSAs or something, and they each have something they're serving. It's a I probably did that like 7 years ago or something. It's a like significant route that I was like,
it sounds like a lot of biking.
Okay, at the end I was like, okay, I am ready for like a nap now.
I'm gonna run and get some.
sure. And help yourself.
Yep, I think I'm gonna just no, I got this.
Are you playing the drums? I could. I guess I could open for myself.
Thank you. So we went to He goes to John. You don't choose just one of these. About 2 years ago, at Project 2011,
Oh, really? Oh, you guys have quite a little group down there.
and we walk practice, and they're teaching their 3-year-old kids how to spin on but the stuff you're doing is just good for the schools, for us, and
I still have.
and again, you're still in there. So our oldest son, you're right. Went to medical school here in St. Louis. As soon as they
So you've heard a lot of what we're going to talk about. Oh, some of the things we announced today. So it's going to be basically, we have our 2 feasibilities to inspire so all of the farmers is right in the house. There's 60,000 cows just in the country.
I know, that's exactly what this young guy was. He was with the other man who was talking about, I want to say John Tyler.
Hi.
I'm Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
So we met at the Ribbon Cutting.
Oh, right, we did. Yeah. Well,
Tuesday we get hit with us.
yeah, we love this. We were just today talking about how I want one of our new interns to profile all the things local libraries are doing around sustainability, because there are several really cool, and this is, one of the longest standing traditions of this. Middleton's doing some cool stuff now too in terms of webinars and things, and just like maybe to get more people to go, oh, I don't get the newsletter from Monona, but I could go to this event over there, kind of thing. And
Yeah, that'd be good because, especially in this area, like Cottage Grove not having one, we
right. Well, and it also could, it might inspire some of the other communities to go, oh, gee, maybe that's something our library could do too, kind of thing, which is, yeah, but we were just today talking about, I was like, we should just profile what the libraries are doing and get some, attention to them for this. Because it is really cool. I mean, the fact that staff get these environmental books out for,
It's coordinated.
yeah. Well, they're librarians, of course. That's sort of who they are. But, yeah. Awesome.
I had to come out for county business.
There you go.
And I saw a couple supervisors,
Folks, just to let you know, if you check the book out at the back,
I don't
you'll be
even presume that I didn't
eligible for a
recognize
book
it, and I
prize.
felt so bad. It's been nice to get out again.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming out. I'm excited to see this event.
Yeah. Another family? Please. And you know we served together?
Yeah.
I was really glad to see him.
So he's up for re-election.
Is he? How's it going? What's his district like? Is it?
I mean, it changed a little bit. I think now it's 2 to 4 counties Republican districts. That's what I was saying. We're kind of Democratic. Yeah, like every
Was it DC?
Supposedly they were meant to make it like they wanted to use their money on one of the things they is now basically. We did that by kind of farming some of the
Wish him luck.
Yeah, well.
It's good to see you.
That's great.
Oh, yeah. Because they were seeing
There's a family concept. They sort of like pushing the registers. And so they had a conversation and John loves it. John didn't have his job. With not being this is what they
well, and what source of it?
well, yeah, right. To end all harm.
Do you want to be or whatever that is? Right. Yeah.
So it's that.
All right, let's get this program going.
It's okay.
You'll have a seat.
That's exactly.
Okay, I want to welcome you to Monona Library's Eco Action Tuesdays program. My name is Ross DiPaula. I'm one of the Eco Action Tuesdays team members. This is our 7th season. It's winding down. We have one more program coming up, Cooking with Chef Lily, and that'll be the 4th Tuesday in October. So, and that again, we'll be right here. So, I hope you can make that. We're committed as ever to getting the word out on sustainability issues, and we're happy that you joined us this evening, so thank you. I'd like to thank MGD for their sponsorship for our program. Their funding makes this possible. And also, on your chair, you might have noticed a comment card. Be sure to fill that out and leave it with us this evening. That helps us guide our programs. If you have ideas for future programs, write them down. And also the library director likes to know what the heck we're up to, so it's good to let them know. We read out those. Those of you who have attended in the past also know we have a door prize, and if you checked out a book, then we do have a door prize, and we'll have it drawn after this is over. We're a zero waste program. So there's a blue container over near the snack table over there, and put everything in there. It'll either go to the recycling with your recycled materials, or we have a TerraCycle box at home that we can put it in, or I've torn up cups and put it in my compost pile. So everything gets recycled. Our overarching topic this year is climate change, and almost everyone knows what this is to some extent, but I'll just talk about that briefly. We know that the warming of our planet, known as global warming, climate change, or the climate crisis, is caused by human activities such as agriculture, deforestation, transportation, overconsumption, and so on. Each month we look at a different cause and delve into the ways that changes are being made to slow climate change, and then what we can do as individuals to make a difference. Tonight's presentation will be a little bit different. We're going to hear from Kathy Kuntz and Dane County Executive Joe Parisi about what strategies are being implemented to address climate change. It will encompass several of the human-made causes of and the specific solutions in the works for Dane County. With that, let me introduce our speakers. So tonight we will have Kathy Kuntz. Kathy is the director of the Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change. Prior to her position with the county, Kathy spent about 10 years with a program called Cool Choices. She worked with local governments and private businesses on sustainability efforts. Prior to that, she led the statewide Focus on Energy program, no small feat. Kathy has a bachelor's degree from the University of Minnesota and a master's from UW, Wisconsin. And I was wondering if you watched the volleyball game that was on Sunday.
No.
That was between Minnesota and Wisconsin here. It's a very good game, but we lost.
Not my fault.
I was just wondering who you would be rooting for.
Yeah. At this point, I've lived in Wisconsin longer than I lived anywhere else.
Okay.
That was a pretty political answer, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Not a yes or a
it
no.
was very good.
It was good. Yeah. You walked that line.
I'm
Sit
hanging out
next
with
to
the
the
pro a lot.
And believe me, I am just skimming the surface from Kathy's resume. I've known Kathy in the energy field for 30 years, and she has been with a number of acronyms that I won't go into with energy organizations that she's been involved with. So Kathy has extensive experience, for her position with the county. And then last but not least, our county executive, Joe Parisi. Joe was elected to lead Dane County in 2011. It's been 11 years, and has won re-election ever since, and with good reason. Prior to 2011, Joe spent 6 years in the state assembly and 8 years as the county clerk. So our county has a population of over 500,000 people and a budget of $600 million. So it's a very large county in the state. Joe and the county's actions on climate change will be felt for generations by Dane County residents, and hopefully will be a model for other state counties. And I have an inkling that Joe is especially proud and excited to tell you about what the county's achievements are. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe and Kathy. So let's give them a warm welcome to the election.
Sure. It's the best position it's ever been. Ross, thank you so much, and thank you, everyone. It's always just so great to be in Manoa, and I have a lot of good friends here, and I look out to see a lot of people I've worked with over the years, and I really appreciate being able to come and spend some time with you. I want to, of course, do all those humanities here from the Manoa School Board, Sarah Smith from the County Board, very committed environmentalist, and excellent County Board member. Is there anyone wearing a mask but I don't recognize who's elected official here? I was telling Sarah I did this at an event about a month ago. I noticed some county board members in the audience, and I recognized them. And then someone said, well, there's someone, there's someone, there's someone. And a couple of the people I've only met on Zoom, so I didn't recognize them. It was a disaster. So you know how it is. Whenever you start naming names, you're getting into this. So it's really exciting to be able to talk about everything that we've been able to do in Dane County around climate change. I remember when I ran 11 years ago and before that, some of you remember I represented Manoa when I was in the legislature, so it's really, really great to, again, be here talking about this stuff. One of the issues I ran on back then was clean energy jobs, because in the legislature that was something Governor Doyle was in office, something we were really pushing for and working on. And it was kind of a new concept to county government, something that we've been talking about. But, you know, the stars really aligned in a good way, because it's something I've always been passionate about. And, you know, unfortunately, not long after I was elected, Donald Trump was elected too. And when we started looking at the challenges we were facing with climate, and we had a federal government that was pretty hostile towards doing any real work that, you know, the history there, pulling out of the climate change treaty, et cetera. I won't even go into that because we all lived through it. And at that time, we had a state government that wasn't doing a lot about it either. And so, you know, I've always been of the mindset that if you're going to complain about someone not doing something, you better be doing something yourself. And so we started in county government looking at part of the hospital saying, what can we do to take control of our own destiny when it comes to addressing climate change? You know, not only working internally, but then hopefully becoming a model for others to follow in the way we have. And so we started doing a couple of things. We started out, as folks in this room know, with the place you start out when it's looking at greenhouse gas emissions, where you get the biggest bang for the buck, and that's energy efficiency. And we started in the county something called the SMART Fund. We started dedicating a couple $1 million a year toward energy efficiency. We analyzed all of our buildings, started making those investments, and those investments pay off very quickly, both in greenhouse gas reductions, but certainly economically also. You know, after a couple of years, 2018 rolled around, and folks remember what happened in 2018 when we had the horrific flooding that really impacted our entire county in different areas of the county in different ways. So we learned a lot from that event, from that summer, and we started looking internally at all county government operations from a lens of how do we adapt to what we can't stop. And so we had all of our departments, we have over 30 departments, in their strategic planning, build in the impacts that climate change is going to bring us. And we knew what that was locally because we had partnered with UW and said, we know what's going on out west, we know what's going on in other countries. Well, how is climate change going to impact us right here in Dane County? And this was the modeling. This is actually something we started before the flooding a couple years before, and the modeling showed exactly what we've been seeing at an accelerated rate the last few years. Warmer and wetter weather, more 90-plus degree days, warmer evenings, but probably the most impactful piece of this is warmer winters and greater rain events, like we saw in 2018, like we've been seeing more of, not just those, you know, couple-hour-long nice rains that soak in, but when everything comes down at once, we see the impacts of that. And so all of our departments now, in their strategic plans, have built in what they're going to have to deal with differently. Our highway department goes about things a little bit differently, larger culverts, different engineering. Our public health department is dealing with diseases that didn't used to occur here because insect-borne diseases because of warmer weather, and on and on and on. So we put a lot into adaptation, emergency response, into being ready. But again, then we realized we needed to pivot to what can we do. So we did our energy efficiency work, and that's been ongoing. And that's gone to the point now where we have done all and more of the basic energy efficiency work. And right now we have a study undergoing to see how we can take it even to the next level when it comes to energy efficiency. And we're really excited about some of the work we're doing there, but some of it will be announced in probably in a week, at least in a bunch of that is good for the environment and good for the taxpayers. So then we started looking at renewables. And to date we have installed 17 different solar projects in various county facilities. A lot of roofs are full. You don't always see them because obviously they're up on roofs. But that is the medical examiner's office, which we built about 7 or 8 years ago. Very high intensity, like energy intensive building, but it's built super insulated and we have solar on it. This is the Lake Farm Park that you may have been out there. Lake Farm, where there's a campground. We decided, you know, if people are coming to this area for the beauty, the natural beauty, we don't want to make things worse. We want to at least be neutral, so we have nearly 100%
electric offset for the facilities and for all the campground, the campers that plug in, all that sort of thing. We have EV charging stations. So that was a great project. But what we found is once we ran out of buildings, we still had a lot more to go in our goal, which is to offset all of our electricity use with renewables by 2025. So a few years back, we started looking for county-owned land that could potentially accept solar and be a good fit. And we found this plot over by the airport, because airports, of course, have to have a lot of land running that you can't build on. And we did some assessments to make sure that it could accept solar, because you have to make sure that it's not going to reflect into the facade, into the eyes of the pilots who are flying over, because that has obviously bad results. But we found this nice piece of land, and we approached MG&E, and we said, we have this piece of land here, and we want to propose a deal to you. If you will develop a solar field on it, you pay for it, we promise we'll buy all of the electricity from you. But because of FAA rules, we have to lease it to you at market rate. They did the math, and they said, yep, let's do it. And so no tax dollars involved. They built this 9-megawatt solar array that offsets about 40% of the electricity that the county government uses in all of our facilities. And we also said to them, it would be great if we could pay you less for this electricity than the other electricity we're paying now. And they did the math again, because the cost of solar has come down so much in the last few years. This is now less expensive, as I'm sure most of you in this room know, than coal-fired electricity. So not only are we offsetting with this one project for 40% of our electricity, we're saving over $100,000 annually on our electric bill just from this one project. So this got us, like I said, this is 40% plus some change from all of the other buildings that we have solar on. But we knew we needed another big solar field in order to get to 100% offset. So we went out looking for land again, and we found a parcel. There was a farm, 2 farms, I believe it was, wasn't it, Kathy? Next to each other for sale, right across the street from our landfill, across 80 from our landfill. And we purchased those, and we went into an agreement with Alliant Energy, because that's their service territory over there. And they are currently constructing a 17-megawatt solar field, 33,000 solar panels on that field. And when that opens, when they flip the switch on that, it should be in January 23, if all goes according to plan, we will have reached our goal of 100% cost renewable offset of all of our electricity 2 years even before our original goal. So we're really excited about that. And what's great about doing these kinds of projects, like at the high school, the things that we find that we do these projects, and they're good in and of themselves and help us reach our goals. But what's really exciting to me is then other communities start looking over trends and saying, hey, what are you guys doing? And so we share our technology with others. We invite people, how did you finance this? How did you do it with all of our projects? And then, it almost becomes like a little bit of a competition. You surely see that in school districts. Winona has it's the largest in the state, isn't it, on a high school? And, Oregon has done some great stuff, so other schools. So then it becomes possible. The question becomes less, well, should we do this? And more, well, why aren't we doing this? Especially when you look at the economics of renewables as they exist now. So, this is my teleprompter. Another exciting thing that we've done, and well, I should just say, so we're about to hit our goal of 100% offset, and so because we've done that, we've set ourselves an even tougher goal, and that is to be 100% carbon neutral by 2030. And we need real carbon neutral, not carbon offsets for the wind farm in Texas. We're doing real projects and offsetting carbon. And that's tough, because the electricity you can get to a place, but we have buildings, we have that generate a lot of CO2 emissions, we have a lot of vehicles in county government, etc. So we've cataloged all that, done the analysis, and one of our other exciting projects that you may be aware of, I know some of you in this room are, is out at our landfill. We capture, as you know, landfills create methane gas, which incredibly powerful greenhouse gas. And I think they're very well proven here, so I won't go into all the details because you know them already, but you know how crucial it is that methane be reduced ASAP. So what we do is we extract the methane gas from there. About a half dozen years ago, we invested close to $28 million into building a new plant. And again, this was a first of its kind for a unit of government to do in the state, and maybe even in the nation, I think. A plant that we built at the landfill that takes all that methane gas that's extracted, it cleans it and compresses it into renewable natural gas that's used in transportation. And so we do two things with it. We sell it. There's a natural gas pipeline. We got lucky. It runs literally through the property of the landfill. We sell it through the pipeline, and it's purchased by Quicker, who sells some of their places. A lot of fleets have natural gas vehicles. And we sell that renewable natural gas. They purchase it. We're also able to earn quite a bit of money selling renewable energy credits on the California market and elsewhere. And then we take what we're selling there is what's left over after we fuel our own vehicles too, because we've been converting over the years many of our larger vehicles. About half of our highway trucks now run on renewable natural gas as they come up for, when one's old and we need to replace it, we've been replacing them with renewable with CNG. And so, those highway trucks that get probably 5 or 6 miles a gallon, those big orange trucks that follow the snow, instead of paying $5, $6 a gallon for diesel fuel, we're paying the equivalent of about $1.50 a gallon for the renewable natural gas that we make out of the trash that people threw away last month. So we're reducing methane, we're saving tax dollars both in our fuel costs, and then we're earning money for taxpayers through the gas that we sell. So this is another one of those, we were the first, and now others are starting to look at what we're doing. We're really excited because a municipality in Illinois just informed us that after coming and touring our plant, they've decided to go ahead and do one of these in their landfill. And then that's where you start getting that compounded action. When you do these things and other people see it, they say, well, how did you do it? And then you can walk them through the steps, and you can share with them what you learned, and that's the point there, and how you did it. And this is where I think people like in my position and Sarah's have you all to thank, because we want to do these kinds of things, but we're really fortunate that we live in a community that supports us in taking some of these risks. Because this wasn't guaranteed to work. We were pretty sure it was, but I'm not sure I'm standing here today if that $28 million plan would have worked, right? So, but we looked at everything, and we were pretty sure it was going to work, but we took the risk. But again, it's because this community supports doing things like that, and we really appreciate it. Now, another important piece of this fits into both our climate work and our clean lakes work. So this picture here is a manure digester. And you might be familiar with two of these manure digesters in Dane County. We don't own them, we help facilitate the construction of them. And what those do is those take the manure from, that one's up to about 4 different farms now. They pipe in their manure to this place. And it goes through a process that extracts the phosphorus, and this is where the Clean Lakes piece comes in. And then so it removes the phosphorus so it doesn't go back into the watershed. Then it puts the manure through an anaerobic digestion process that extracts all the methane. And as we know, farming is a very important source of methane. That manure is just sitting on a tank or outside, and you get methane. So they take the methane from that, and what they needed for that, though, was a market. And so what we did in this plant when we built it, we built an offloading station so that they can truck that compressed natural, that methane gas. They built a mini station like this, basically, that does the part that cleans it and compresses it. And then they truck it in and they can sell it, they can offload it into the pipeline at our facility. We built that facility so that they can do that. And when they did the analysis of the greenhouse gas emissions that are produced by trucking it there versus the reduction, which reduced from the process, it's still a much better, comes out as a big reduction. And a really neat thing that they're doing now is they have on order one of the first electric semi-trucks to haul their gas to our place. Now, they brought a demonstrator and they got to riding it this summer. It was pretty fun. So this is a lot of our, our work to get down to being carbon neutral. And then we also do a lot of, one of the things we're fortunate of, and Kathy will talk a little bit about this, so I don't go into it too much, is we have the ability in Dane County through land purchases and restoration to sequester a lot of carbon. Prairie sequesters roughly as much carbon as forest, which is pretty interesting. In fact, we do a lot of prairie restoration and wetland restoration, and we're really targeting areas that are both good for reducing runoff into the lakes and absorbing water to reduce flooding, but also where we can create some really good carbon sinks. So I think I'm going to briefly lead into Kathy's role, which is actually having to do everything that I talk about. And that is one of the things we did when we created, we created her department. A few years ago, I created the Office of Energy and Climate Change so we could have a dedicated set of resources and people to work, full-time on this issue. And one of the first things that they did was they convened the community and created a climate action plan, not only for Dane County government, but one that can work for the entire community and help the community. And we brought together local units of government, school districts, communities, and Kathy and I go and talk to people because basically we're not the federal government, we're not the state government. We can't tell you what to do, but we can show people the path. So we're doing that through kind of a community organizing model. And we talk to tons of people in different organizations and help people get the word out and help people accomplish the things that they want to be able to accomplish when it comes to greenhouse gas reduction. So locally there's a lot of great news. We're like I said, we're 100% electric offset. We're on our way to 100% carbon neutrality, and we have so many. The network is building so greatly when we're looking at throughout the state and even beyond. We have national media come and talk to us, and so it really helps give hope in a time when sometimes hope can be a little, hard to find. But I think my message to you is there's so much we can do. We can make a difference. We can make a difference here, and by making a difference here, we're impacting folks elsewhere and helping inspire them and helping make their lives make a difference. So I think I'll turn it over to Kathy now, and then we'll have an answer to questions. So, thank you.
So I'm going to just build on what the exec said and talk a little bit more about the climate action plan and the work we're doing countywide. Again, as Joe said, the climate action plan started with a climate action council that was really a diverse group, businesses there, social justice groups, farmers, utilities, all coming together to make a plan. I think there are a couple of things that I always like to share about the plan, and so the exec talked about this a little bit. In building our plan, we again went to the university, the organization called the Wisconsin Initiative for Climate Change Impact, who is taking these global climate models and boiling them down to what's happening in counties in Wisconsin. And again, what we're already seeing, what we're going to see more of, is hotter and wetter, more heavy rainfall, more heat in all seasons. And as we think about the future, we just need to always keep in mind that those things are happening to us. The other thing to keep in mind when we're thinking about the plan is where we start with emissions. So we did a baseline. In 2016, Dane County, all of us together, businesses, residents, local governments, produced about 7.5 million metric tons of carbon equivalents. Okay, across everything we do, that's what we produce. And the pie chart gives you a sense of sort of how that shakes out. So the biggest piece of our pie is our electricity. Wisconsin's electric grid is certainly in 2016 is still relatively dirty. Historically, we get an awful lot of our electricity from burning coal and natural gas. So that's the biggest piece. Those other two, the pieces, the light yellow orangish residential commercial pieces, that's the natural gas we burn in our buildings to heat space and water. So about half of our pie in Dane County is the built environment. More than half of the rest of the pie is transportation, and then there's sort of everything else. And again, these are the emissions we produce. That's an important nuance, okay? We don't manufacture all the things we consume in Dane County. The way local governments do emissions inventories, those things we consume get counted in someone else's inventory. Just, you could debate about how fair that is, but that's how we're all doing inventories today. So that's sort of where we start with the emissions. To figure out how we cut that, our office convenes subject matter experts. So we convene people who are experts on renewable energy and energy efficiency and transportation policy and all these different groups who came up with recommendations that they took to the Climate Council, and they, negotiated through those. And ultimately, in our climate action plan, there are more than 100 recommendations, which you do not want me to go through. So I'm going to give you a framework for thinking about this instead. Okay, 3 big strategies when it comes to reducing emissions. We often in my world talk about deep decarbonization when we mean anything that's like seriously cutting carbon emissions. 3 big strategies. The first one is eliminating waste. Whether we're talking about energy or food or water or fashion, it doesn't make any sense to take raw materials, process them, move them around the globe, so that get them to someone's home or business and then have them throw them out. That's just an enormous amount of emissions we didn't need to make. That might well be the hardest thing up here because it's about changing how humans behave, but it's a piece of what we need to do. We need to stop throwing so much stuff away. The next thing is we need to get the energy we really need to use from clean sources. So we've talked about electricity coming from solar and wind and the renewable natural gas. And then the last piece is just pairing those clean energy sources with our uses. So increasingly over the next decade, you're going to hear more and more about all-electric buildings that use heat pumps and other efficient technologies to heat and cool them. You're already hearing a lot about electric vehicles, and in the county we're doing a lot with RNG vehicles too. So that's how we reduce emissions. Now, because we're Dane County and we have all this amazing natural space, we also have the opportunity to increase natural carbon sequestration, to do strategic things with trees and prairies and how we farm so that we're storing more carbon in plants and soils. The reducing emissions is the big part of the strategy, but the increasing sequestration is what gets us over the finish line. Is sort of the way to think about the two of them. Altogether, all of this will cut countywide emissions in half by 2030. And we're not just saying that's what it will do. We had world-class climate modelers do our baseline and then do all of these pieces and go, okay, you can cut in half. Now, that's important because the climate scientists are telling us that's what we need to do. We need to cut emissions in half by 2030. So, unlike a lot of other folks, we have a roadmap for doing that. A plan, though, as the exec would be the first to remind me any day of the week, a plan is just a plan. What we care about is results. And I'm going to talk largely about sort of 2 ways. So part of this, of course, is that we do conversations like this, that we say to people, hey, we all are part of this solution. How can we work together to do this? The 2 big priorities for my office are that we make it easy for people to be part of the solution, and I'll give you some examples of that, and that we celebrate the leadership that's happening, because leadership is contagious. And the more we celebrate it, the more contagion we can create. So, on the Making It Easy, we have a website where we have a lot of resources. We've got a What You Can Do page where we've got things for individuals and businesses. We have a whole page for faith communities because we see a lot of activity in that space. You know, trying to give people the directional arrows they need. We also take really tangible things. So, as an example, getting solar on your home or business. You might not know anyone who's ever done solar. How do you figure this out from scratch? We've been working with the city of Madison to make their Madison program countywide. So essentially it gives people access to independent experts who can help you figure out if your house is good for solar. They do an annual group buy where you get a guaranteed price for your system. It just makes it a little bit easier for a regular person to jump into that market. On the business side, we think one of the big barriers is financing. You know, over the long run, energy efficiency and solar power on your roof pay for themselves. But that doesn't mean a business has that money up front. So there's a program we use in Dane County called Property Assessed Clean Energy, where a business can get a loan to do solar on the roof or energy efficiency. And essentially, the loan is set up so that it's positive cash flow. So that from the very first month, your savings are bigger than your loan payment. Because that makes it work for a business. So again, trying to make it easier. We also, you know, we really care about local government leading by example. 71 cities, towns, and villages in Dane County, 18 school districts. That's a lot of potential examples of action. We work with them through a thing that the county exec created with Madison's mayor called the Sustainability Leaders Collaborative. So we bring together local governments and school districts to learn from each other. This is a picture from an event we did 2 summers ago. We wanted the fleet managers in local cities, towns, and villages to think about electric vehicles and RNG vehicles. So Madison's fleet folks brought some EVs to a lot. We brought some big, that's a natural gas, that's an RNG snow plow. And I know that because of that, I don't know if my little, this right here is the RNG tank, is part of what I learned that day. And we invited these fleet, and essentially fleet guys stood around with other fleet guys and kicked tires and talked fleet to each other. Which seems really simple, but it's helped us move. McFarland now has. They're our latest local government that the police department just bought. Mach-E, a Ford Mach-E electric vehicle. You know, so it's starting to happen because we're making it easier for people to figure out how to make it happen. The other thing that we do is celebrate leadership. And probably the biggest way we do that is we started in 2020 a Climate Champions program where we recognize businesses, nonprofits, local governments who are leading in some way on climate action. Maybe you've got a really energy efficient building. Maybe you've done a really good job getting your employees to not all drive by themselves to work every day. You know, lots of categories. And this year, next week, we're going to announce 76 new climate champions for this year. So, like a lot of local leadership. And I want to give you a little, just as I close, a couple of examples here, because the stories of our leaders locally are just really cool. So this is the Friends Meeting House in Madison. This is a facility that's more than 100 years old. That last year, 2 years ago, they started talking about how they needed to do an upgrade so that the building was ADA accessible. It had some real challenges. As they started talking, they kind of went, why are we stopping there? You know, we should really make this a better building. They ended up investing in a geothermal heating and cooling system and new solar. That building is now almost net zero. This down here is Bayview, the affordable housing in the city of Madison that's going through a major upgrade and becoming way more energy efficient. This is that, the exec mentioned this, the Forest Edge, the elementary school in Oregon, which is the first net zero energy school that's at scale in the United States. So this solar power at that school supplies all of the heating, cooling, computers, cooking, everything on site for the year for that school. My other two examples, this is one of the waste displays at American Family Insurance. American Family Insurance is light years ahead of folks in terms of their waste management. And next to them here, my A to Z, is Zoe's Pizzeria. You might not have heard of them. They're in Waunakee. They deliver all of their pizzas with electric vehicles. So there's like all of these really cool stories, and I just want to close with acknowledging two of the stories here in Monona. I mean, the Monona Grove High School, I was delighted to be there, you know, when we were celebrating the opening of that. It's not only a substantial PD system on the roof there, but Monona Grove did this amazing job of having school board members work with community members and students on this project in a way that we're always talking to other districts about how effective that happened. And our very first year of Climate Champions, we recognized the city of Monona for all of its efforts in water conservation. That Monona has been a leader in promoting water conservation in really unparalleled ways. So again, I'm constantly celebrating the leaders because that prompts other folks to go, Abby hasn't said anything nice about me in weeks, what's that about? And we see people stepping up. You know, a lot of what we've got to do, all of us at this point, is about mobilization. You know, we do a lot in partnership with local governments, with faith groups, with employee green teams, with anyone who wants to partner with us. So we're always looking at that. The thing we need all of you to do is talk about your commitment to climate action. We know people talk about what matters to them. So whether that's congratulating someone you see on our list of climate champions that you frequent, or encouraging someone you know to explore energy efficiency in their own lives, that's a really important thing. All of us talking about this all the time. And with that, I will close for questions.
Any questions for Kathy or Joe? Sure.
The slide back up about the ACE program.
Yep.
I didn't get that.
And that's just an example of
Yeah.
how you can structure the bill. So basically, you can structure it to be less than it costs. And the way that they do the financing, there's no upfront. So even if you're waiting for the rebate or something like that, you don't have to pay. You don't have to pay anything upfront. You can just wait till that comes back. And an interesting a piece of this. So if you go to business, and faith communities can use this too, right?
Yes. Nonprofits who own their own facilities.
Yeah, it's not available to residential customers. But so say you have a business and you're like, wow, I'd really like to do some energy efficiency in solar, but I think I'm probably going to outgrow where I am in 5-6 years, so I don't want to make the investment. The loan stays with the property where this is structured. So you could go ahead and do it and realize the savings and the environmental benefit, but then the loan is built into the price of the property, and the selling point to the person buying it is they're still saving the same amount that you did on this. So if Ross buys this building that already that has X number of years remaining on a base loan, the savings for that loan payment is still more than the loan payment. So that's it can be something that a buyer might look at and have to have explained to them, but it's also, again, I think meant to also make it easier for someone if they're not sure on what they're thinking, like, oh, we're really like too.
Condominium association, residential or business?
It's probably residential, isn't it? Or I don't know, condo association?
So, yeah.
That's a good question.
I'm not sure how, given it's an association, I'm not sure. I mean, we could, if you were interested, there, part of what's cool about PACE is the bank that does the most PACE loans in Wisconsin is right here in Dane County. So we have a good connection to a PACE banker who we could, if you connect with me afterwards, I'm happy to reach out to our friend Dan and ask him that question and have him circle back.
We're a small association, but we've got 3 west facing buildings and 1 south facing. We're good.
Yeah.
Well, if you're interested in it too, if you're not PACE eligible, Kathy could certainly work with you to, if you need some assistance, like figuring out what all the options that might be available to you are, and we could do that.
The other thing that I should just say, because you're talking about that, is so the many of you probably know that the federal government passed the Inflation Reduction Act recently, and that's going to create some new incentives for solar projects, including for nonprofits. So in the past, only you had to pay taxes to get a tax credit from the federal government, but they're essentially going to make that like a cash rebate for a nonprofit to claim that 30% tax credit on those projects. So we're still waiting for all the rules from the IRS exactly how that works, but the initial language suggests it's going to be pretty straightforward. You're just going to say, as an association, we overpaid our taxes by this much, and the IRS is going to write you a check. And so that is going to help. The math of this is about to change. We were discussing this before we started in really dramatic ways.
And please, the word we want to hear is please use Kathy's office as a clearinghouse if you have questions, or if you know people who are thinking about things and have questions, because she knows about it. So basically in this field, and that's something we really want to be able to be a resource to anyone who wants to do efficiency of the rules and help them get what they want to do. Because there are a lot of ways to get there, but they're not always real.
It can be a little maze-like, yeah. Somebody back.
2 questions. One, what about residential? Is there any other department that does that, or is it, or is that going to be something done by your department? And also, who's the bank that runs?
It's one community bank.
The McFarland branch, is that?
Yeah, I think he's in McFarland. I think that's right. But it's one community. I mean, he sort of does the PACE loans across all of them. Is sort of, I think, how it. So
if you know other bankers who would like to get into PACE, we would, we're not just.
We're always happy to help them.
Let people know about these guys because they do it, but we're hoping to see more folks offer it.
Yeah. In terms of the residential, so both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have green mortgage products where you can refinance your home to include solar or energy efficiency measures. Banks aren't very familiar with those products, and we're trying to work on that. It's a slow kind of thing, but there are mechanisms from the kind of key lending institutions to do this. It's just not a product that people use very much. The other thing, though, I should say is that under the Inflation Reduction Act, there are going to be some new incentive programs for homeowners around First, the tax credit on solar is going to be 30% and stay 30% for 10 years. But in addition, there are going to be incentives for making your home more energy efficient and incentives for electrification of your home, including an incentive to upgrade your service panel. So if you have an older house, you might not be able to even think about an electric vehicle charger without upgrading your service panel. And there will be an incentive. And again, it's going to take a little while to clear out exactly how that's going to work. I'm hoping those are all going to run through Focus on Energy, and it's going to be super simple. So hopefully we'll win that argument. But there will be incentives to do those things. So this is also a time to be paying attention, because there are a lot of opportunities coming.
And then, Kathy, potentially that group buy could be helpful.
Yes, the group buy.
The group buy, I think you actually get a lower price.
You get right. Essentially,
so
yeah.
Information on that.
Yeah. The group buy. I mean, they're negotiating. Hey, we think we can get 50 households to put in solar this summer, and so yeah, they get a better price.
And I think an important thing, Kathy, kind of touched upon that we're going to talk about in the presentation, is the financing piece. And we're in a lot of kind of quiet conversations with different financial institutions, talking to them about being able to offer more green products, and like she's mentioning, looking at different ways to help people achieve these goals, because financing is huge, especially for individuals, right? And so it's a really important piece of this. It's just a longer slide.
Yeah. In terms of the mobilizing, if you have a favorite bank or credit union, it would not hurt if you said to them too, hey, I wish you had an easier way for me to finance this energy efficiency thing I want to do. They kind of need to hear those things from multiple angles to believe this is a demand that's out there that we want to respond to.
Yeah, I have a question about the new landfill and what kind of energy efficiencies are going to go into that, particularly if they're different from the old.
Yeah, so that's going to be a real, the goal there is to, so there's our landfill is going to be out of space in about 6 to 8 years. And so we've been working on the site, developing the new campus, and we're looking right across the street from the current one is, across 12 from the current one is. And it's a pretty exciting opportunity, because we envision it as being kind of state-of-the-art, looking first at it's not just a landfill, right? It's what do we do with waste? We're looking at waste reduction and having something like the restore type places there, thrift stores, because you wouldn't believe, maybe you would, the stuff that people throw away, right? It's amazing. So there's so much that initially can be recovered. And then looking at expanding the recycling that we do already. We do construction waste recycling there, et cetera, but looking at doing mattress recycling, which you can't do now, and other things like that. And looking at really integrating kind of these different small businesses, the mattress recyclers, thrift stores, people, all into the waste reduction stream, eventually composting. You want to these are things that take a lot of legwork, right? Because it's not just the county, it's all municipalities that bring things to us. But we would love to, and this will be developed over 10, 20 years eventually, right? Because it won't happen overnight. But the goal is to find a place where people, municipalities could collect food waste and bring it, and either compost and or have food waste digester there. And so the goal is that the landfill piece is the very last piece and the last resort. We want to be as cutting edge sustainable as possible. So that's the vision. I'm not as eloquent as describing it as our folks. If you'd ever like a presentation for your group one day, our folks could come and show you their vision too. We'd be happy to talk to them. It's a pretty interesting presentation. But yeah, we want to be as environmentally conscious as we can, as we develop them. See this as a good opportunity.
was going to ask you, what, I mean, with the capturing the methane that comes off the existing landfill, I mean, how long into the future will that keep producing?
A long time. We're exactly when we finally cap our current landfill, how long will it produce methane? Decades and decades. There's a lot in there. So keep going. And if there is still, you know, if in the new landfill, there's organic waste there, it will be the same.
A mid question. Wondering if you calculated the payback time for that $20 million investment?
Yeah, just a few years. Yeah, we're almost there. Yeah, I mean it's like it's a gold mine. I mean, the private sector is really looking at doing this. You know, like I mean, we're making a few $1 million a year out of that right now. And the land price is an enterprise; it has to pay for itself. And because of these renewable energy credits, there's really, you know, in addition to the money we're saving and selling, there's really the renewable energy credits. So, you know, places like waste management, others, the private sector, they're rushing in, they're approaching communities like ours who have their own landfills and saying, hey, we'll do this for you and give you a little cut, but we did it all ourselves. So, yeah, financially, it works out really well.
So it's 6 years old now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have to be like in 10 or 15 years?
Oh, no, I would imagine, I mean, see, the price, the reason I don't have the specific numbers is because the price fluctuates because those credits go up for bid. But if we've been in there 6 years, I mean, we're close, we've been a few years. But great, nice to came back to you know, it's a really, if you're in the right situation now, again, we're fortunate because we have a pipeline, like I said, literally right there. So you could have a place like this located somewhere that there's just not anywhere near. But if it's close enough and you can make the connection, it costs a lot of money to make the connection too. But there are enough of these that it lines up in a lot of places, and it's really good. Again, this is another one of those examples of if you are in a situation where it can work, the question isn't should we, it's why aren't we doing this? It takes a lot, though. You know, it's a beyond like running of it. It's hard to say what we're doing. Yes.
One of the topics you touched on was carbon sequestration, prairie restoration. Some nice examples of that on the microscope get over here. That's in the city of Madison side, the crew company. So my understanding is that they're what they have in the city of Madison, they have to the county. Can that be lost in Minnesota? And if so, can it extend not only to the municipality but beyond the 15-foot cut by the curb or the lawn restorations?
Yeah, I'm not sure which grant program it was part of, but we have a number of different grants that will give a 50% match to communities who are doing projects, you know, to reduce runoff. You know, sometimes it's helping replace those stormwater outfall pipes with stormwater retention ponds. And it sounds like this is falling into one of those projects. We have those grant programs. The projects we get directly involved in are usually on a much bigger scale. For example, there's a parcel of land, it's 160 acres we purchased a few years ago, right outside of Middleton, next to the Pheasant Branch Nature Preserve. There's an area there that's the headwaters of you know, the creek that comes in there, the Pheasant Branch Creek that goes directly into Lake Mendota, so it's very sensitive to runoff, flooding, etc. And it's next to Pheasant Branch, and there was a farm there. And it was for sale, and it was platted, they were going to develop it into a residential area, and we swooped in and bought it. And because, you know, as I've said, you know, 50 years from now, no one's going to look at what will be a beautiful prairie and wetland and say, darn, I wish that was a residential development, right? But for us, it was the sensitive nature of the property, both for the runoff into Mendota, which goes through the entire chain of plays, and it was incredibly susceptible when the floods came in 2018. Pheasant Branch Creek got flooded out. And so we really needed that ability to absorb that water there too. So that's more of the scale. I mean, that's a pretty big one. They're not all that big, but when we get directly involved, it's something like that. And that prairie restoration is, has been going on for 2 years now. It'll take a couple more years. We do about 40 acres at that one a year, because if it was in farming, we go through a process where 1 year they grow corn, the next soybeans, and that takes care of most of a lot of the weeds and everything, gets the soil ready to do the prairie restoration, which is not only our staff, but a lot of volunteers. There are a lot of really good friends groups out there. And we have ongoing prairie restorations constantly throughout the county. And so, so that's what's nice, that, when we look at these lands that can impact water, we can, there's just so many benefits. There's the carbon sequestration, there's the clean lakes piece, there's the flooding piece, there's the pollinator habitats, there's the recreation. So it's really nice when you can, do some restoration like that, and it's just so much fun.
Is there any regenerative farming happening?
So it depends on the definition, right? If you're looking at the true regenerative, where it's never, disturbed, where you have trees, I watch these YouTube videos and these amazing, places that people have grown over the years. I'm not aware of a lot of that, but one of the programs that we started funding, I'm glad you mentioned this because this is related, it's not regenerative though, but it's also to do with sequestration, is we developed a grant program a few years ago called the Continuous Cover Program. And this is designed for farms that right now are row cropping, but would like to convert to, we have 3 choices, either rotational grazing, or grow perennial grasses, or convert to prairie. So someone might be farming in a way they'd like to change, but they just don't have the resources to do that. And so we help them get started and help them make the conversion back to be able to graze. For example, the first farm that took advantage of this, I went and I was visiting the new farm people, and the farmer said to me, he said, told me what he's doing, switching back to grazing, and he said, this is my grandpa's farm, right here. And over the years, they went to traditional row cropping, and they all know the challenges that would be with that environment, and now they're switching back. And then other farmers have land that might be vulnerable to runoff, but they're farming for economic reasons, and we can help them convert that to prairie. And so, all of those various benefits. So we try to make it flexible, not regenerative, but similar, and then we get to, especially with the prairie, the carbon sequestration from that too. But no, the regenerative thing, unless you're familiar with Kathy, I don't know if a lot of it's going on here, but I'm very interested in it. I think it's really interesting.
Kathy, you had talked about, I'm sorry, I forget, but a very large meeting where you're bringing in a lot of experts and collaborators. And you mentioned that there were some justice and oriented groups. And so I guess I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about how they helped shape the conversation and how things maybe came out a little bit. Yeah, definitely. So maybe one of the best examples of this, so we had multiple equity and social justice groups involved in the evolution of the plan. One of them was the Urban League. The Urban League does a program where they do construction training with mostly formerly incarcerated folks. And at one of the very first meetings of the Climate Council, they were sharing information about that program. And one of the other partners in the room was a solar installer who solar installers very often need staff, and there's a layer of, we need people to move panels around and carry them up to the roof and stuff. And a partnership evolved there, where suddenly we have a solar installer who's hiring, they hired like between 6 and 10 of the graduates of that Urban League program. And created this example that really helped us all think about, okay, where are these opportunities where if we just know a little bit more about what else is going on in our community. We have somewhere on our website a video that folks put together, and it's super compelling. You've got these young men talking about how significant it is that they can show their kids this solar that they helped. When you know, it's a guy saying nobody thought I'd ever amount to anything, and I made that. And so, like, I think, you know, some of that has helped us just think about these issues differently. The equity piece is very much an ongoing thing, you know, where I think in some ways the plan helped us identify the paths around some issues. On equity, really, it's this ongoing, how do we keep having conversations? How do we have more different conversations? How do we, you know, one of the things we've been really involved in lately is a number of social justice organizations are thinking about new facilities, and we've been trying to help them get the green facilities that they want that aren't necessarily always what experts think they should have, you know, and so trying to give them some access to advocacy that can help them really, really shine in that space kind of thing. So that's like another way that I think we're really trying to think about how those voices kind of come to the table again and again.
A couple of concrete examples. I mean, to dig deeper on your example, so Centro Hispano is in the process of campaigning and designing a new building. And so I connected Karen Menendez-Collar, the director, with Kathy, and you get those two together and there's no stopping them. And Karen went back to their architect / engineers, person designing the building, and said, I want to do this, this, and this. And the person said, well, you know, I don't think Karen said, I want to do this, this, and this. And so now they have completely changed their building plan. And it's going to be incredibly, you know, even to the next level, environmentally sustainable. And again, it shows the difference that someone inside an organization, it's not necessarily an organization that's, you know, created to protect the environment. But this is what I tell young people a lot when I talk to them too. You know, if you want to be an environmental lawyer, if you want to work in an environmental nonprofit and do the direct work, that's great. But you can make a difference in anything you do. You can work in corporate America and get in a position where you say, you know what, we're going to do things a little differently. You can be the director of Centro Hispano and say, no, we're going to deal with sustainability because we see what the climate crisis is doing to migrants from Central America. Another project that we're involved in is we work with Operation Fresh Start on a couple of different projects. We're helping them now. We help them apply for a grant. We're helping them put together a climate crew. You know, Operation Fresh Start, as many of you might know, they do. They work with young people at 17 to 24, many of whom, you know, take an alternative path in life. Some of them, you know, need a second chance. They've gotten in some trouble, but amazing young people with a lot of potential. And so they do work in the affordable housing realm, but they also have a couple of partnerships with us. And I'm backing up a little to get background to the new climate crew. We created a couple of youth conservation crews in county government in partnership with Operation Fresh Start. And so they go out and do a whole bunch of work in our parks. They do like this prairie seed collecting, they help with the prairie restoration, they help remove invasives. So they're out there in the parks doing the work, you know, as part of their journey for Operation Fresh Start. And it's such a successful partnership and it's such great outcomes that, you know, we got together and started talking about creating, you know, in addition to the climate corps, a youth conservation corps. The concept is this group will go into lower income households and help those households with energy efficiency improvements. So, you know, helping a person's fiscal situation, helping the environment make it more comfortable for them during hot or cold weather, and then giving these young people again an opportunity to, you know, work through their time in Operation Fresh Start, through the accomplishments they want to make, and introduce them to a new and growing trade in the green sector, which is going to be retrofitted, which is so important.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of that one. Yeah.
That's all right.
Joy and Kathy, I guess first I'd like to say thank you for the direction that you're taking Dane County, making this a much better place for all of us to live. I certainly appreciate hearing the savings and money that different projects are going. Kind of the question that I have is, a couple of times Joe, you mentioned the flooding in 2018.
Yeah.
You have, and the county has done a lot, since 2018. How well can we all sleep at night, knowing that there's going to be another downpour at some point?
Sure.
With flooding through the 18th century.
Yeah. Well, Monona is the perfect, this isn't usually what I talk about in the climate talk, but this is perfect for Monona. So I'm glad you asked the question. So one of the things we looked at in addition to all the different equipment and the planning we did in apartments that I mentioned is as you recall, especially 2018 showed us we had initially that downpour that resulted in flash flooding in the streets and the streams that backed up. That was really dangerous stuff. But then over the next few days, the lakes started backing up even more, right? As that water all drained into Mendota, and then slowly going down the chain of lakes, we couldn't get water through the chain as fast as it was coming in. We opened up all the locks, all the dams, got a whole bunch more weed cutters than usual, tried to increase the flow. And the flooding happened because there was nothing we could do to make that water move faster. And the reason for that was, over the years, over the decades, every channel in between the lakes has filled up with construction site erosion, basically. It's mostly sand and gravel. And so, whereas that water used to be able to move through faster, it's just, in some areas, and this isn't sucked from up, that someone you may have heard of, which is where we extract, with hydraulic dredging, the phosphorus that came up from the streams in order to get phosphorus out of the system. This is basically just looking at that sediment. So we launched another program, started a couple of years ago, to go in and dredge between the lakes. You saw it when you would drive down the belt line up in Red Lake. That last year, the year before, since the pandemic, I never know what we're doing that anymore, just like everyone else. And we've been going. We started there, but then now we're back more down toward Wabisa, so we can work down on that end and work up and do the last one in between Mendota and Monona, do that last, because obviously Monona might not be here if we did that first, right? And so we're investing tens of millions of dollars into this, and every year we're up every summer now, and we probably have another 3 or 4 years to go to complete it. But basically, we're going out and dredging out. If you want to see it, kind of on the side of the road, if you go out McFarland, Babcock Park's on your right. On the left over there, you might look toward the end of Babcock Park, and you see this big pile. It looks like a big mound of sand, a little mountain of sand right now. That's because we're dredging over there. That's that sand that's coming out from the channel. And so what we do is we pipe it up there, and pipe it into this depression, and let the sand settle out, and then the water flows back in, and water's going to be actually cleaner going back in than what's coming out. So we monitor this, and then we take that sand, and because it's so pure, what we're taking out, we're actually able to have people reuse it for us. So it's really nice to be able to use it environmentally in a more sustainable way instead of having to bury it. It's actually replacing the raw material. We have a couple of construction companies that were using it under a road they were building, under a parking lot that was being built. So they come and truck that away. And so we will be repeating that process over the next few years. It's pretty time consuming until we're done. So when we're finished, our goal is to be able to control that flow of water much better than we're able to now, to move it faster and have more control over the various depths in each lake. Because as you know, folks who live on or near the lakes, the lake level issue is extremely challenging because what one lake does impacts the other. So hopefully we'll have a much better handle on that now too, because now there's even lake levels we can't always control because of that, the slope flow. Sorry, that seemed like a really long answer. But basically, we're cleaning out the pipes so we can get the water through fast.
And I just stuck the map back up there that shows the sort of where.
Yep. So phase 1, obviously, that we did, and that's where we are now. And that's, like I said, we're working down here.
also, and then lastly will be a bid. Again, it'll be a few years till we're up there. But yeah.
And what are all those urban quality, water quality projects?
That's not from my talk, but I bet those are those grants I was talking about where they build retention ponds and replace stormwater outfalls, I'm guessing. Unless someone knows more.
I think you're right.
See, I just
I
had
think
this map
that's-
for this
yeah,
piece. They might
yeah.
use it for two things. But yeah, and that's another grant program that we have in the office.
All right, one more question? You have one more?
I spent a lot of time in the Cambridge area, and I see that their construction started on Ashton. Is that a county project or is that all?
That's a private project.
Well, again, I'd like to thank our speakers. What a complex web of challenges and projects.
This is our dredger, by the way, isn't it? Wow. That's the thing that's in McFarland right now.
You've always been such a risk taker, and I think, like I said before, we're going to feel this for generations. Somebody has to take a risk, and thank you, Joe, for doing that, and Kathy for managing this climate action program. I mean, it's amazing, and it's again a shining beacon for the rest of the counties in the state to look at and say you can do that too. So it's nice to see somebody do that.
Well, and Ross and Joe, you might want to add one of my pictures of the sandbags.
Yes, totally, yeah.
I've seen that, and it's really nice, because you're exactly correct, it was up there. So you guys need the sandbags. And we're not just talking, these are income sandbags, to save hundreds, thousands.
Interesting.
So our one last thing is we're going to have our drawing. So I will ask Joe.
Well, can I
take
tell you,
it.
Workman's Club, Ross? This is
Yeah. All right. And the winning ticket is 9197001.
What's the prize?
It's putting this book over there. 7001.
Better than like,
Look at your book. Because I'm 7-0.
Let's get to the next one.
Look in your pocket.
Yeah. There it is.
Oh, okay.